I'm Addison. It's been 3 months since the night my husband, Ryan, told me that his ex-girlfriend, Ava, was a part of his life and that it wasn't going to change. I'm still working on forgiving him and getting to know the new him. It's been a long and challenging journey, but I've learned so much about myself and what I deserve in a relationship. It all started when Ryan mentioned that Ava had moved back to the city. They were going to grab coffee to catch up, he said, as he scrolled through his phone casually. I didn't think much of it at first. They had dated years before we met, and long distance had ended their relationship. I believed the past was in the past. Our marriage had been steady for 6 years. We had shared calendars, predictable schedules, and quiet evenings after long workdays. I was the one who remembered birthdays, checked on him during the day, and adjusted our plans when his meetings ran late. I thought that was what love was all about. But one coffee with Ava turned into lunches, then dinners, and finally weekends. Ryan always had reasonable explanations. She's struggling with the move. She doesn't know many people here. She needs a friend, he'd say. I trusted him, or at least I wanted to. Then, one Tuesday night, everything changed. We had planned a simple dinner at home that morning, but Ryan came home after 9 o'clock. By then, I'd already eaten alone. He sat beside me on the couch as if nothing was wrong and said, "We need to talk." He told me I'd been distant and cold lately. I replied that I'd been giving him space because he'd been so busy with Ava. He said I was being insecure, but I knew I was just being honest. And then, he dropped the bombshell, "Ava is part of my life. That's not changing. You need to accept that." It was the certainty in his voice, the finality of it, that made me realize our marriage was at a crossroad. I simply nodded. It wasn't an agreement, it was the moment when something inside me finally understood. That night, I stopped doing the things I'd done unconsciously for years. I stopped checking in on him, stopped rearranging my time around his, and stopped making space for him when he'd already decided where I fit in his life. The next morning, I woke up at 6 o'clock as usual. Ryan was sleeping on the couch, facing away from the room, his phone still plugged in beside him. I didn't wake him, I just got ready for work in silence. For 6 years, my mornings had always included sweet messages for him like "Drive safe, good luck with the meeting, and text me when you get there." But that day, I sent not a single one. At noon, my phone buzzed. Ryan texted, "You didn't say good morning." I saw the message but didn't respond. At 3 o'clock, he asked if I was okay. I waited until 6 o'clock to reply, "I'm fine." He kept texting, saying I was being weird, and I told him I was just being consistent with his priorities. When I got home at 7 o'clock, there was only one plate of dinner on the table. We had an argument. He said I was being difficult, but I knew I was finally being independent. I no longer wanted to be the one who was always deprioritized. The next day, Thursday, I went to the gym after work and stayed longer than usual. I felt like I was reclaiming my space, both physically and mentally. After that, I had dinner with a co-worker named Ethan. We had worked together for 3 years, and our conversation was simple and free of drama. I texted Ryan at 6 o'clock, having dinner with a friend, home late. He bombarded me with questions about who it was and if it was a man. I replied mildly, but inside, I was thinking that he was finally feeling the way I had been feeling for months. By Friday morning, Ryan tried to make amends. He left a note on the kitchen counter, saying he was sorry and asking if we could talk that night. I saw the note but didn't give him an immediate answer. I told him I had plans, and I did exactly what I said I would, went to the gym, had dinner out, and got home around 9 o'clock. When I walked in, Ryan was on the couch, his eyes red. We had a long talk. He apologized for making me feel second, but I needed more. I made him realize that he had chosen Ava over me and that he'd dismissed my feelings for months. He finally understood his mistakes and started to cry. Over the weekend, the atmosphere at home was tense. We only talked about logistics and avoided anything that required us to open up. On Sunday night, Ryan snapped, saying I was punishing him. I told him I was protecting myself from investing in someone who didn't invest in me. On Monday morning, Ryan woke up early and made breakfast for both of us. He asked me to sit with him, but I knew he was just trying to get back to the way things were, not really understanding what he'd lost. That night, he told me he'd told Ava they needed space and that he needed to prioritize our marriage. I said that was what he should have done months ago. It was a start, but it didn't fix everything. The weeks after Ryan cut contact with Ava were quieter. He tried harder than he had in years. He made dinner, planned date nights, and asked about my day. But I was still observing. I needed to see if this new behavior was his true self or just a reaction because he was afraid of losing me. A month later, we started couples counseling. In one session, the therapist asked me why I'd pulled away instead of fighting harder. I said I'd been fighting alone for months, and pulling away was a way to conserve my energy. The therapist also asked Ryan why he hadn't realized the impact of his actions sooner. His answer, that he thought I was secure and could handle it, was met with the therapist's reminder that security doesn't mean tolerating neglect. Ryan has been trying to rebuild trust one small action at a time. He shows me any messages from Ava proactively and asks if I've forgiven him. I tell him I'm working on it. When he asks if I still love him, I'm honest. I loved the person he used to be, and now I'm getting to know the new him. The absence of my presence in his life, the little acts of love that I'd done without thinking, spoke louder than any fight. He's trying to earn it back, and only time will tell if he can succeed. But I've learned that you can't force someone to value you, you can only stop devaluing yourself by accepting less than you deserve. Sometimes, the most powerful response to being deprioritized isn't anger but absence.